Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone, welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. We'll be discussing the topic today of how to elevate your customer engagement with AI. Now, customer engagement is crucial for businesses today for several reasons. Engaged customers are more likely to become loyal customers. And when customers feel connected to a brand, they're more inclined to repeat purchases and recommend the brand to others. Engaged customers also tend to spend more money over time. By fostering a strong relationship with your customers, you can increase their lifetime value and drive higher revenue. Engaged customers are also more likely to become brand advocates. They share their positive experiences with others and effectively become ambassadors for the brand, helping us attract new customers. Engaged customers also allow businesses to gather valuable data about their preferences and their behavior and their needs. And this data can be used to personalize our marketing efforts, tailor our products or services, and make more strategic and powerful business decisions. Look, all of this adds up to competitive advantage. And in today's competitive landscape, businesses need to differentiate themselves from their competitors, and a strong focus on customer engagement can serve as a unique selling point and give businesses a competitive advantage. So overall, customer engagement is essential for businesses to thrive in today's marketplace. Not only drives revenue and loyalty, but also provides valuable insights that help businesses stay competitive in an ever-evolving landscape. But how do you do it? Well, that's what we're here today to explore with two great guests. But before I introduce our guests, I want to say that we want to hear from you too. I'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. And if you have a question along the way, jump on in. I will attempt to get some of your questions into the flow of the show, and we'll certainly have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, well, let's get into it today, starting with two great guests. Let's bring aboard Stephen Jufrey, Senior Voice Manager at Vonage. Stephen, are you with us?
I am here, Kevin. Great
Hello,
to be here.
Stephen.
Thank you.
Great to see you again. Welcome back to the show. As I mentioned, Stephen is with Vonage. He is a voice and AI specialist who is focused on end-to-end communication solutions that enable differentiated, more targeted customer engagement across industries. But on a personal note, he is also lives in his home and loves biking near the coast in Los Angeles. Tell us more. Where about in Los Angeles are you, Stephen?
I'm actually in a town called Rancho Palos Verdes, which is about 25 miles southwest of Los Angeles, and so it's right on the coast. So it's really a nice coastal area. The weather is great, and so I
Nice.
just really do enjoy kind of beach cruising and enjoying elements of living out here.
Well, it's just about 8 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, so we won't keep you longer than we need to, so you can get back out there in Ranchos Palos Verdes. So, Stephen, welcome to the show today. Also joining us today is Richard Rogers. Rich, are you with us?
I'm here, Kevin. Good to see you again.
Rich, welcome aboard, Rich. Welcome back to the show. Now, Rich is with Startup Tech Law, but Rich works with clients bringing his unique experience of over 20 years as a four-time tech founder, a startup attorney, and CMO. He's currently in Philadelphia today, but also lives in Croatia, which he considers his second home. Croatia, why Croatia, Richard?
I was married into it. My wife is from Dubrovnik, so I consider it my second home. We try to get there at least every year, every other year. So it's
Nice.
become like a home over the last 20 years.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you're with us today. So, Rich and Stephen, let's get into this subject today. I'd like to draw our attention to an article published recently by retailcustomerexperience.com titled Embrace Nonlinear Experiences in Retail with AI. Now, as we've been covering on this show, AI is reshaping the way retailers connect with shoppers. Conversational AI tools like intelligent virtual agents use natural language processing and machine learning to understand and process respond to customers in a natural, intuitive, and personalized way. The article discusses how traditional linear models of retail customer support are becoming outdated, and emphasizes the importance of personalized, non-linear customer experiences. My question to you folks is exactly what are linear experiences and why are they so important? Stephen, can you help us understand what are non-linear experiences?
Yeah, Kevin, we tend to, kind of think of this as kind of a connected hybrid journey of sorts. It's and how AI can ultimately help bring together all those various moments of interaction within a customer journey. Whether it be an in-store or a virtual visit, regardless of the device they're using or what channels they're communicating with. It's all about meeting communication preferences too. How customers interact in their personal lives tends to be a reflection of how they interact with the business. But the thing here is that how AI or how all these moments can be interconnected, and doing that with with a virtual agent or a live agent for that matter. So it really is all about that connected journey, how you're referencing data within that journey. So there's always a point where you're collecting data and knowing your customer, and regardless of again where they are, where they're communicating, how they're communicating. And so it's more than just AI being an enabler of on a 24/7 basis to provide self-service. It's all about the connections that are achieved, whether it be through a CRM or leveraging data about a customer otherwise, or pulling history preferences that ultimately help drive those experiences. So it really is about that connected journey. And in a time where ultimately in the retail world in particular, there's a lot of parity out there in terms of product, in terms of retailers many times offering the same product, sometimes at the same price. So the difference is absolutely the quality of that engagement. Do they know you, and are they engaging with you personally and in an efficient manner? So again, it's really all about effective and personalized customer relationship and how all the various moments are brought together.
What does the nonlinear mean?
Well, I mean, I think it's about it really is about in my thought is it's really not just about purchasing and then service. It's all connected, because I think in a nonlinear way you can be making be making recommendations on additional products. So it's not just about one part of the journey to another. It's all interconnected, and there's multiple points where you're not just making a purchase, but you're also providing a service as well. So again, it's really kind of bringing all those various moments together, I believe.
Okay, so that makes sense, because customers really are not linear in their process in terms of their engagement with an organization or buying or doing their research. Okay, very good. Now, Richard, how does AI help with all of this, Rich?
I think what we're seeing now is a complete renaissance in how online shopping is changing right before our eyes. I think we're going to look back in 10 years, and today's e-commerce websites are going to look like 2000 websites to us. AI is going to completely upend everything that we're doing. In fact, it may actually eliminate a lot of these websites that are retail driven. What we saw today, I mean, just last night, we saw OpenAI has their new GPT 4.0. It has very much like a human feel to it when you actually use it on your phone. You can pause the conversation. It can change its tone. These virtual agents that will be very personal to you will go across the web to all of the retailers based on your preferences, based on your style, based on your mood, actually. And it won't actually be like it is today, where we're going to go to a Macy's.com or to a Fanatics store. We're going to actually have these agents go across for us, and actually, in a way, even do it without us even telling them to do it, to find things that will be suggested to us. The retail right now, the way that it is right now, honestly, it's not set up for that type of exchange. Those that are embracing that are the ones that are going to actually succeed in this. And I think that the technology is difficult. And I think when you look at even just marketing automation tools, it's a very tough thing for a lot of these retailers to embrace, understand, manage, and maintain. There's data issues all over. Where they're going to have to go in the future is thinking about an AI first approach to retail. And that's something that I've seen very few retailers actually start to figure out.
Interesting that AI, the technology, can enable organizations to be more personal or more personalized by enabling retailers to offer more personalized interactions, analyzing historical data, understanding customers' intent and their needs and their history. And this personalization can be super powerful. Do you find it ironic that the technology is allowing us to be more personalized?
Well, I think it's going to flip, where today the retailers are trying to become personalized for you. What it's going to happen is they've got to have enough product and selection out there so that your agents will already know you. They already know what you're interested in. I always like, gray shirts, let's say, and blue pants. They're going to find those clothes for me. Or if I'm looking for a car, for instance, they're going to find that exact car that I'm looking for, make suggestions for me. The retailers just have to make it available. What's happening now is the retailers are trying to figure out, well, if you've been to this website, you like the color green, and you drive a Subaru, you're probably going to like this sweater. No, what's going to happen is, here's everything we have. Here's the great selection, different variety. Your agent's going to be the one that's going to make that personalization for you. That's the change that's happening. Back when I was doing this, and honestly, it was 2008 when we first started doing AI for retail, and it was called virtual intel agents back then. It was like I was talking about UFOs and aliens at the time when I talked about AI. No one could understand it. They thought I was crazy. But the idea was, if there's a certain type of, let's say, a camcorder at the time, there's only a certain number of questions that every top salesperson at this really top retail store would ever be asked. So if we knew what they were, we could create this bot that could be trained so that any customer could come in and ask any question, and with almost 99% accuracy, get an answer as if they were in the store. That's what we need today with these agents on the retail stores. The next step is there's going to be an intelligent agent that all of your agents are going to connect into. So you're never going to ask the question to the retailer. You're going to ask it to your own AI agent, who's going to know you and what you do. Maybe you're retired, so you want to take travel trips, so you have different lenses, or maybe you're just a new parent, so you need flexibility in that camera, which is something that can go in a bag. They're going to know you and where you are in your life journey and make those suggestions based on you, your personalization. So in a way, you're not really even going to be interacting with the retailers, I think, in the future.
I think,
well, Stephen, where does the future take us? Yes, please go ahead. Stephen, where does the future take us? Go ahead.
I think this technology I agree completely. But I think it's also important to not, to also consider the live agent experience, because that will be I think that'll be a factor as well, where you want to make sure that your live agents have access to the same types of tools where they can provide cues on personalization, recommendations as well. So I think it is ultimately a mixture depending on customer preferences and how they choose to interact.
Well, again, it sort of comes down to the data.
Absolutely, comes down to the data.
It comes down to the data and the ability, whether it's in person or whether it's an AI bot, to aggregate this customer data and use a proactive or service-based approach to recommendations based on customers' behavior, their previous interactions, enhancing their shopping experience, and really providing a personalized support that perhaps we couldn't do in the past. Do you think that we'll ever find a future where indeed customers prefer to be working with an AI bot than they would with a human person that may not know them as well? Gentlemen?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that can be true, but I think the idea here is that you want, when you do need that, when you have a live agent, that they can have that knowledge at hand, quickly accessible. But yes, I think where we're going, the ability to capture data, leverage data, will certainly just continue to drive these more intelligent assistants.
And 24/7. I mean, I don't know about you folks, but I do my shopping online at night, maybe in the middle of the night. And really, whereas this is a world where we weren't operating just a few years ago, self-driven, options allow retailers to offer the support around the clock, empowering customers to find answers and complete their tasks quickly. So are we ever going back? Rich, do you think we'll ever go back to the old way of doing things?
I think people still enjoy going out to a store and trying on things. That's always going to happen. But I think that we're looking at sort of we saw how fast OpenAI, ChatGPT, was adopted. I mean, it's the fastest in history. What will happen, and probably within a 3 to 5 year window, is that the AI bot technology and personal shopper experience on the retailer site will move very quickly into your own AI agent that's going to do that for you. But I think what it's going to also do, which is a real positive, I think it's going to open the door for a lot of smaller brands, and I'm talking more in clothing and fashion, that usually have a really difficult time being found, that might have really unique, different styles, better quality maybe. These AI agents will be able to find that for you, where the larger retailers are going to have those common brands, Levi's and Hilfiger and such. But it's these smaller brands, I think, will be open up to more of these personal shoppers that will find you that pair of jeans or that sweater or that dress, where you are stuck now having to go to the retailer and then to that retailer and then to that retailer. This AI agent will be so smart that it's going to catalog that and find it for you, and then suggest these ideas for you in the future, whereas you won't have to actually interact except for when you make the purchase, and the AI is going to do that for you as well. That's why I think we're in about a 3 to 5 year window, and then it's rapidly going to change. And the way that we do retail now and e-commerce it's a history, and we'll never go back to that except for people going into a store to buy a toaster or try on a dress.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we've been hovering around our first discussion topic, and I do want to keep moving to our first discussion topic today, why customer engagement is foundational to business success. We've been talking a bit about retail, and by the way, for those with us today, you can access the article that we've been exploring, Embrace Nonlinear Customer Experiences in Retail with AI. There is a link in the attendee chat, so you can click on that and access that article. Tell us what you think about the article, and if we're on base with our comments today. But let's move on to why customer engagement is foundational to business success. And let's open up the door a bit wider too. We've been talking about retail, but really let's talk about all businesses in various industries. Customer engagement, it's not a surprise that customer engagement is foundational to business success, but how we do it and its importance and growing importance is changing. Stephen, tell us why customer engagement is foundational to our business success in other areas besides retail.
Yeah, and I think what I'll point to here is the fact that we do our own research here, and one of the things we do is a customer engagement survey report every year, and we do a survey of this year was one of the larger ones where we surveyed 7,000 consumers, and on their customer engagement pain points, and so there's some key findings there that kind of validate I think what we're talking about here. And I'll just kind of share a couple of key points that on the more not so great side, we've discovered that of the respondents, over 90% will take some action that can ultimately damage a business when it has bad customer experiences. But let's focus on the positive element of this. Over 90% will take some action to promote a business when they get a positive experience. And drilling down on that, more than will take some time to fill out a survey, providing data that can ultimately be factored into future engagement, buying patterns, and setting priorities for the business. And then also, more than half will also refer friends, tell family about their experiences. But then, there's also the possibility that about a third will make additional purchases during a sales process. And then so it's really, there's lots of benefits to having that that kind of engagement, and even to the fact where we found that even a quarter will actually pay a little bit more to get services if they're getting if it's a real personalized experience. So some of the pain points, customers don't want to jump through hoops. They want someone that'll take someone or a process that will take ownership of their challenges. As we've been mentioning, they want 24/7 support in some form, and the need to offer that and offer it in a very intelligent way. And so it really is about that kind of really consistent in types of engagement. And also, one thing we heard is that there's not enough communication options. As I mentioned earlier, it's all about communicating in a way that customers are comfortable, the way they communicate in their personal lives. So a business needs to kind of react to those sorts of dynamics with regard to how customers are want to interact with a business and be treated personally by a business. And again, we hear this firsthand, and it's been pretty consistent message, especially over the last few years, in terms of these types of drivers, of these needs, of what's really the pain points, and how ultimately, as we'll start talking about how AI kind of addresses many of those or all of those.
So, Stephen, in that research, what do customers say about AI? Are they inclined to find it to be a favorable experience or perceive it as a favorable experience, or is there still pushback against AI in terms of interaction?
That's a really good, appropriate question here, because honestly, what we found is that about 80% are comfortable using AI, and so if the it works out. It's all about customer engagement. And so if they're engaged and AI engages with them in that personal way, they are comfortable using it. So we have found that there is an acceptance there of using AI tools.
And Rich, what are some of the pitfalls that we should be avoiding while adopting AI in terms of engaging with customers?
Providing the wrong information and having the AI sort of go off in directions that it shouldn't be going in. It is still very, very early stage for AI, but as the AI is interacting with customers, we have to look at, one, is it telling the customer a fact, or is it making up facts as it's going along? And I think as we get further along with AI, it's going to have less of an impact on the AI is going to have less of an error rate. But also when it's interacting in a way that's an agent, what data is it collecting from that customer? Are they providing any sensitive information, personal information, and where is that data being stored? And that's one thing we need to be careful of as marketers, because we actually don't control that AI. It could be doing anything unless we really create really tight guardrails on what it can be asking. And if it does ask anything, at some point, someone's volunteering it, what happens to that record? We need to be careful of that. More importantly, I think it's really making sure that it's trained the right way so that it's responding accurately. Because if it's not, it's a reflection on your brand. And just like if you had somebody in your store, going back to retail, providing wrong information to your customer about certain products, you're not going to trust that brand. You're not going to trust that person, then you're not going to trust the brand because they hired this person or didn't train them properly. So I think it goes back to the same thing with AI now, as the same extension. If that AI is not trained right, it's providing the wrong information, or how many times have we been on a customer service chat and the thing just doesn't know what it's doing and you just get annoyed and you turn it off quickly. It's a reflection of your brand when things like that do not work well.
Rich, you mentioned two important words, trust and reputation. So where does that data go? And how can we ensure that we are in control of customer data? And then how do we ensure that our AI bot is accurate and timely and accurate in the information that it is providing, especially over time?
Yeah, I think we look at different data source from it could be your app, it could be your website, it could be one of these agents that's out there. Where that data gets collected and where it goes, I think is unique to each individual enterprise or company that's doing this. Yeah, I could foresee it going into a CDP more than anything, and how it's being used then becomes really important, because you may have to change your terms of service, your privacy policy now, to implement artificial intelligence with the data collection now. It's not just a form that's being filled out or someone calling customer service. It's actually an interactive, intelligent bot that's interacting with your customer. And where the bots are going, it's going to be very, very human-like. In fact, you may not even realize that you're dealing with a bot if they call you back, and that's already happening now. I've got clients that have bot technology that sounds like a human calling you on the phone. You wouldn't even know that it's an AI.
Well, and I may not know that you're collecting that data. I may assume that it's just an innocuous little chat with a bot and it's fine. Is there any transparent, how do I build transparency in there? Or does that transparency literally get in the way of my interaction? How do we deal with that transparency and the disclosure to our customers, or whether we do it or whether we don't, and the sort of friction involved in the process? Gentlemen?
Well,
what would your be recommendation?
I think from my standpoint, I think the overall recommendation, and I think this kind of is leading ultimately into our discussion on generative AI, in terms of it needs to be very, as we've been mentioning, very much a very trusted, guarded type of experience, where you're kind of working in a solution stack where you have basically, what we talk about with generative AI and the tendency to maybe go off script and hallucinate, balanced with the capabilities of conversational AI. So the right process can ultimately combines these, where you have kind of that safe anchoring of to a knowledge base, where you have guarded use, where you have specialized conversation design, or you're continuously analyzing knowledge bases for context. You're doing really, and then ultimately having smart AI-guided human collaboration to make sure that these disciplines, which are complementary, nevertheless work together in an appropriate way, where it is trusted, guarded, and you basically have that level of confidence that your information is protected, and and you're getting good information back, if you will.
All right, Stephen, well, you've led us into our second discussion point so well today, and that is how the latest conversational AI and generative AI disciplines allow us to engage more customers at scale. I'm interested in this scale part of it. It seems to me these tools can allow a startup, a smaller business, the tools to really engage at a bigger scale and compete with their bigger competitors. What are some techniques to do that? Rich, can you help us with some techniques to allow us to engage more customers at scale?
Yeah, I think first thing that comes to mind is, if you're running a campaign, for instance, I think we're going to be able to have campaigns driven not just B2C, but also B2B, that are really more customized or personalized. Well, the AI is customized, but it becomes more personalized to that cluster, for instance, in a B2B world, where if it's just, I don't know, maybe it could be just accountants or attorneys that you're targeting for your service. These AI tools now can go out across a large number of potential leads and customers that you have that are inbound, even possibly outbound. But I see where it's now possible to take AI and make it so that your funnel becomes less cluttered in a way. So and I'm thinking more of the enterprise world, as more and more customers are coming in, more contacts and leads are coming in, you just don't have the ability to get in front of all of them. So what I think will start to happen is, now with more of these leads coming in, the AI can take over more of an SDR role, so that you can do lead scoring, potentially lead routing if somebody's in Seattle versus Philadelphia, or if they have a certain expertise, or maybe a 6 degree of connection into that account. The AI could then foster that communication into that right person, but it also can then filter out those that are just not ready. So in a way, it's going to help companies drive better leads and drive hopefully a higher win rate as well. When it comes to advertising, though, I think it's also going to be able to change the way that advertising works, in a way that now it's a very static ad. Even if it's got some interactivity in it, what I think could happen is you're going to start to see advertising where you will have AI driven ads, so that these ads can become interactive with that particular user, answering questions within the advertisement itself. So if I see a car, for instance, I can start asking, well, is this a long range electric vehicle? Is there another option for the color, or whatever it would be? And the ad
Nice.
itself could then start to interact as if it was one of these agents.
The ad itself interacts. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Stephen, what are some examples of how we can use these techniques to engage more customers at scale?
Yeah, so I think and I think we're starting to talk about this, in that you can have kind of, instead of kind of you providing, instead of, say, for example, broadcast messages, for promotions that you're having, you can, instead of broadcast messages, you can have messages that are tailored to the individual based on their preferences and their the previous buying behavior. And so you're offering personalized offers or sales. You're even doing things like providing front end FAQs, everything that's tailored to them. And so ultimately, what you're doing then is that you're you know when customers are intrigued by offers that are broadcast, they require personalized interactions to questions that they have to ultimately close a deal. So these one-way blasts are really giving way to really more two-way interactions, where you can get responses quickly and really seal the deal that much faster. And so these companies are now deploying these more intelligent agents to provide that tailored information, that also can, again, seamlessly transition to live agents as needed. But ultimately, this message-based marketing makes it easier for consumers to promote their content in more personal ways. And then ultimately that helps, all of this is helping build loyalty.
What about customers that I don't know? I mean, when I know customers, I've been interacting with them, I've been perhaps collecting data. I certainly am starting to understand a bit more about their buying preferences, their history. But when I think about reaching more customers at scale, I'm also thinking about reaching new customers that don't know me, that I am not in contact with. How does AI and generative AI help me do that, gentlemen?
I'll take a jump. I think it's going to help. I was just going to say, I think it's going to help you on the segmentation side of things. So I've already seen in practice how AI is being used to splice and dice certain customer personas based on the current data that the client has, which is very limited, to be honest with you. But it's still better than nothing, and it's a way that it can become more of an automated process based on certain preferences and certain updated data that comes through. So if we know that there's an interactivity or an intent gets higher based on certain actions, the AI can then craft that message out and build that within a marketing automation tool to send out a more personalized message based on whatever that interactivity was.
And I think that
Stephen, do
also
you have some examples? Yes.
I think, was that for me or for, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Stephen. Yeah, do you have some
Yeah.
examples of? Yeah.
I think one example that comes to mind is that you can use an intelligent agent to basically kind of qualify a potential customer in terms of natural questions where they can interact either via message or response back via voice, where you can ask questions that relate to their use case, their needs, their priorities. And then ultimately from there, you can start crafting something that, a response to them. But yeah, I think you can ultimately really talk about what you ask them what their needs are, what their priorities are, in terms of helping us as a business understand what their buying decisions are, what their interests are. And then from there, you start working on a more tailored, personalized approach. But I think there's a way to kind of address this, in a way that ultimately gathers information that you can use later to target more effectively.
All right, very good. We are here today with Stephen Jufrey, Senior Voice Manager at Vonage, and Rich Rogers, founder at Startup Tech Law. We're here talking about how to elevate your customer engagement with AI. And if you have a question or a comment for us today, please feel free to enter that into the attendee chat feature. We'd love to get your comments on our discussion today, and we will have some time for your questions here in just a few minutes. So please feel free to pop your questions into the chat feature, and we'll see if we can get to it here in just a moment. All right, gentlemen, let's move along to our third discussion point today, and that is how AI can be used to drive customer loyalty through personalized communications. I'd like to talk about personalized marketing communications specifically for a moment. Now, this kind of personalization we've been hovering around here in terms of enabling retailers and other organizations to offer highly personalized interactions by analyzing historical data, understanding customers' intent and needs. This personalization, of course, can lead to increased sales and foster customer loyalty. But I want to get back to you, Stephen. You mentioned earlier about hallucinations. I am not an expert in hallucinations. We hear about hallucinations with generative AI, but exactly what is a hallucination in generative AI? What is it? How can we avoid it? And why is it something that we should avoid?
Yeah, and I think this is, again, where it comes back to having a really kind of balanced approach where you have those safeguards in place. But what we're talking about here is when there's so much data coming in, and when a customer is interacting with a virtual agent, they may be wanting to ask multiple questions. So in other words, it's not just it's really kind of not just single questions. It could be multiple questions. It could be, really kind of intent, multiple intents within a given inquiry. And so the bot's trying to process this, and there could be the tendency, for example, to really just kind of not understand what's being communicated, and then come back with a response that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's important that you have those safeguards in place where you can balance it with traditional conversational AI flows, or ultimately having a human in the loop. But it's important that you're leveraging the data in appropriate ways, and that you have those safeguards in place to make sure that that you're ultimately communicating effectively. And when you have the latest intelligent agents, they're basically able to kind of work through having multiple questions asked at one time. So I think you're going to see more and more a much more natural conversation flow that will mitigate hallucinations, the tendency for a bot to go off script more and more as we go along here.
And Rich, what are some safeguards we should consider in our strategies?
I think some of the things we want to look at is just not going overboard on the personalization and becoming a bit scary when AI is still new for a lot of people. And I think us in the in the tech space, we feel like it's comforting already, but I think for the vast majority of people, they still don't even know what it is or how it works. When it starts to I'd say intrude on their personal life too much, I think it becomes scary, and that can then go back to that brand, and it's more of a big brother from a brand standpoint, looking over your shoulder of everything that you do. So if it knows that you just got engaged, you just got pregnant, I mean, there's all these things that happen throughout life. If it knows too much about you because of your preferences or your past history, then it becomes a bit scary, and I think will turn off a lot of customers. It's a balance. It's certainly a balance, and we've got to maintain the control over that, so that it doesn't do what Amazon did years ago when it sent a bunch of ads and information to that one family when the daughter was pregnant and was looking up, I guess, baby clothes or pregnancy tests or something, and next thing you know, they found out because of that. It's years back, but that's the same type of thing that AI is going to start being able to do now, and it's going to be scary if it gets too personal.
All right, Stephen and Rich, we are getting some questions coming in from our attendees today. This one coming from Emma. And Emma, thank you for your comment and question today. Emma asks, how can AI-driven technologies such as natural language processing and predictive analytics be integrated to create more interactive and immersive and personalized customer experiences across multiple touch points and help with customer engagement? Stephen, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, this is another one is that I think we've been kind of touching on a bit, but yeah, I think it's, when we talked about the journey at the top of the call, we want to make sure that it is a connected one where ultimately, natural language processing, and you have the integration with your existing business processes. So it's ultimately how AI, it kind of it is not necessarily is integrated with your current workflows, and that includes things like immersed in your customer data, your integrated with your CRMs, your contact centers, and ultimately when you have agents, you have virtual assistants that may be messaging or voice or even social channels. You want to make sure that they're all you can bring those together with the right AI solution, conversational AI solution, where you're creating conversation flows that are ultimately brought together, so you have context, and then ultimately again integrated with data to really kind of make this more immersive, more personal. And you're doing this again across those multiple touch points at every point in the journey, from initial engagement, an additional sale, the marketing outreach, the sale, deliveries, and then ultimately support and service. It has to be a connected journey to ultimately, be as effective as possible. And so that will enhance customer engagement, because that all does again lead to a personalized approach to meeting customer engagement needs.
Okay. Now, Rich, in 5 years, what will customer engagement look like?
I was just thinking about that, where I think we're going to see this ramp up of retailers trying to get, build their own AI boxes or go across multiple APIs and connect all of their data sources and their CDPs and CRMs and who knows what and data lakes. And then all of a sudden, I think there's going to be a move where the AI, I guess, assistant or whatever it will be called at the time, that is your personal AI, will change all of that. And it's going to be this rush to get all of this out there for the retailers and for all of these companies. And then it's going to be your own personal AI going to them. And then it's going to become a change in how they interact. And that's the next phase, which is going to be these companies and their IT departments figuring out, well, they're not coming to us anymore. We know they are not coming to us, but we know their AIs are coming to us. So how do we change what we do now to become more friendly to their AIs? I think those companies, like I said before, I think they have to start thinking that way now to position themselves for that. And it may actually happen before 5 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more likely in a 3-year window.
All right. And Stephen, moving forward, can you recommend some resources or some insights that we can direct our attendees to learn more and discover some strategies that they should consider?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we've been talking about a lot here and a lot about, the technology of AI, but it really boils down to elevating customer engagement. So for businesses that believe that introducing AI into their workflows is critical to the competitive success of their business, but maybe they don't know, maybe don't know where to start, or maybe are thinking about budget or resources to implement this, know that there are practical paths to getting started with AI, with managed risks, with a guarded solution that can quickly impact your customer satisfaction, customer service costs, a better ROI. And it really, when I say starting practically, it's about, what are your priority use cases? What are you trying to achieve with your customer engagement roles, customer engagement priorities? Or is it a matter of you want to improve your outreach, Are you trying to front end your customer service to support agents? That, it really is about what are your business priorities, your engagement priorities, and then there are practical paths to start those. And if you're concerned about, we've been talking about, data accuracy, privacy risks, you need to make sure that, you're looking at a trusted generative AI and conversational AI solution stack that does promote responsible, safe, guided use. And then also, final thought on that is integrating customer engagement workflows, including contact centers, including with the CRMs. It's as important as the technology itself. It's as important as deploying an intelligent assistant. So you need to make sure that you're kind of working with experts in terms of applying AI to these areas and putting the pieces together.
All right, very good. Stephen Jufrey, Richard Rogers, thank you so much for being with us today. We have reached the action item round of the show. In just a few seconds that we have left, I'm wondering if each of you could provide us with one quick action item that we can use to take advantage of your ideas and advice. Rich, do you have an action item for us?
I do. Now that GPT 4.0 is available and it's going to be free, I think everyone should go into and get a ChatGPT OpenAI account and build a GPT just to see what it's like on the other side of things, where you have to program it, essentially train it for a certain use case. I think it's one of the best tools. I tell my students, build a GPT for the class. Learn it from the other side of things and you'll figure it out much faster.
All right, very good. Thank you, Rich. Stephen, how about an action item for us today?
Certainly. I earlier in our session, I referenced our global customer engagement report, and I'm providing within our chat here a link to that report where you can kind of see, firsthand how consumers have responded, their what their engagement priorities are, how consumers choose to communicate, how they choose to engage, and ultimately what pain points are, or do we need to solve for. So there's a reference there. I recommend it as that kind of foundational guide to what's kind of driving AI with customer engagement.
Very good. That is Stephen Jufrey, Senior Voice Manager at Vonage. Thank you, Stephen. Also, Richard Rogers, founder at Startup Tech Law. Rich, thank you so much for being with us. Gentlemen, it's been a great panel today. Yes. Your perspectives and advice were spot on, and I hope that we'll get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone else joining us today, thank you too. Join us again next time on May 21st, when I'll have another great panel of guests discussing the topic of ensuring your transformation efforts deliver customer results. That should be another great discussion. And in the meantime, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there, so check me out. I'm Kevin Crane, and you can check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. And until next time, I'm Kevin Crane. Thanks for watching.